Welcome to the Final Hour podcast, coming to you from the original Living Word Christian Center out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. My name is Jim Hammond.
I'm Lonaiah Farrell.
And I'm John Gabb. Welcome to the Final Hour podcast. So glad to have you here.
Special guest, Klaus Schwab.
Yeah. It's so good. Welcome, this bunker here at Living Word. It's so good.
It's well protected.
Right. Good luck.
Say hi, producer Jerry.
Hello.
So, listen, the reason we have John going in and out of the Klaus Schwab accent today
for you.
is because many of you are asking for it and writing in about it. So,
I've been dreaming for people to ask for my accents for.
Have you?
Yeah, he has other accents.
Hey, I went to the doctor and I had a nurse who watches the show and says, Jen, who says she loves your accents.
Oh, that's so nice of you to say.
Mm-hmm. So here we are.
You'll have the accents or have nothing. You'll be happy.
Klaus Schwab, ladies and gentlemen. Also, interesting connections. Jeffrey writes in, says that
Jeff with a J or Jeff
goes
with a
to
G?
sleep
Jay.
to the Final Hour podcast.
Oh,
And so he went to sleep listening to the Final Hour podcast. And he had a dream that me, Lonaiah, and John with Jeffrey got into a rocket ship. And he said the guy that we never see was flying it.
Jeremiah.
He's the captain.
And we got out of the rocket ship on the moon. And I think Jeffrey made a comment, and Lonaiah looked at Jeffrey.
No, Jeffrey said, where are we? Or something like that.
Lonaiah said, we're on the moon, stupid.
And you know what? That's probably what I would say.
I would say that.
Yeah.
My apologies, Jeffrey.
And then he said, we got back in the SUV, in an SUV that he thought was a rocket ship and drove back to Earth. So if you want special dreams, if you want to dream about
Just put the podcast on.
John, Lonaiah, Jim, and Jerry, put it on.
We're like the magic bus people.
Yes.
Remember the magic bus, the teacher who would take the kids?
On a trip.
Yes.
In our favorite magic trip. Magic what?
Bus.
I'm going on a trip. I don't remember. My
I
kids
never
sing
watched
it.
that show.
I didn't either.
My
That's
kids
Little
did,
Einsteins, John.
Little Einstein.
Wow, Jeremiah, why do you know that?
I watch it all the time.
Quickly,
Oh.
before we get rolling, Lonaiah has
Oh.
a very interesting story.
This is so funny.
So we're going to have a new code word here on,
Okay.
on the Final Hour podcast, where this is going to lead to something here you'll see.
So
And don't write in judging us, because Jesus says if you judge, you will
this
be
is
judged.
just a funny story.
funny
It's
story.
a
There's-
misunderstanding. It's a little tongue-in-cheek. Is that what
Listen,
you're trying to say,
I've
Jim?
used the
It is.
BLT with cheese thing like 5 times in the last day. So
Same.
Go ahead,
Same. I used it that night after I heard about it. Okay, so
Nobody knows except the Final Hour podcast viewers, listeners, and
Yep.
subscribers. Thank you for our 25 new subscribers.
Yeah.
We've gone up. We've actually gone up almost 100 over 100 subscribers in the last month.
Yeah.
yep,
It's been very good.
it has been very
So
good.
thank you for subscribing.
That's right. And share. Share the link wherever you're watching, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Rumble, whether it's your podcast. You can share it.
And we
Invite
do
people to listen.
And we do recommend get yourself familiar with Rumble.
Yep.
Where this
Rumble's
can
a
be viewed.
few episodes behind.
If you like viewing it, YouTube, you know the deal with YouTube, okay? And so eventually, I think you're going to have to go to
well,
Rumble.
Charlie Kirk and Jack Posobiec, or whatever his name is, I was
Hibbs?
listening. No,
No.
Sobiec.
Pre-
Yes, him. They were talking and saying that, I didn't even let you finish because I know what you're going to say. You're going to say his name right. And they were explaining how on YouTube you can't say certain things, so they just switch over to Rumble to talk about it.
There we go.
Right.
And that's what we're talking about,
Sorry,
and-
John's like a constant corrector of
and they,
words.
I'm sorry. No. My kids say the
I
same
personally believe they lie about the views, and I know for a fact, and blah, 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 right? I don't believe the views. When you look at what we're getting on Apple Podcast and Spotify, and what they're saying that we're getting. So, we're not going to pull any punches. We're going to say what needs to be said.
Yep.
And if we've already got one warning, And so I'm just saying, start trying to figure out Rumble.
Right.
All right.
Right.
If you like to view it.
Right.
And so quickly, Lonaiah.
Okay, the BLT with cheese. Okay,
Yeah.
so my sister's friend went to Jimmy John's, and she had kind of had a day. You know when you have those days?
I've had a day.
Yeah. So she places her order, and she's kind of high maintenance on. You know how you can be picky, like whatever you want your sandwich the way you want your sandwich.
And
Yes.
I want the tomatoes cut in half.
Yes. And so if you're a worker, I'm sure you get really annoyed with those orders, and you probably just roll your eyes. So the lady gets her orders, gets in the car, and she's going to eat it while she's driving.
Mm-hmm.
And she looks down, and it says, how do we say it? A female dog.
The name.
Yeah.
What's
written on the Jimmy John
outside of the package of the Jimmy John
The
sandwich
scientific
is the name for a female
name
dog.
for a female dog.
Yes.
Right.
And so she's like, oh, no, I'm not letting these people get away with
not
that. So
taking
she
this today.
drives back to Jimmy John's. She marches in there and she's like, I know I'm really high maintenance and my order was a lot, but for you guys to write this on my sandwich,
Call me a
female dog, it's not okay. And the worker goes, ma'am, that says BLT with cheese.
Because you had a B and then you had a
Little L.
lowercase L.
Yeah.
And a lowercase
T,
TCH. So it totally looked like
So
that. So
if
If it would have been a number 2, there would be no problem.
no problem.
we'll
But
only
it
say
was a
this one
BLT.
time. So when you hear us,
Say you're a BLT with cheese. And I will say, my parents, they don't like swearing. And my sister had told the story because we were all in a room and there's a situation going on. And I had to call somebody at that time. And the lady who responded back when we were all in the room was really rude. And I was like, what a BLT with cheese. And my dad starts laughing. I was like, okay, that has the John Carlson stamp of approval. I'm good. He's like, that's going to be the new thing.
That's funny. That's really
anyways,
funny.
So don't be a BLT with cheese.
That's right. You can't make it through the tribulation if you're gonna be. that's for sure. You gotta have a spine.
Jim
and we're
is
just
Vanna
if you're
Whiting.
and if you write in complaining about us saying BLT with cheese,
Call
just not gonna-
Jimmy John's first.
we're
Don't.
not going to respond.
This is the wrong Jimmy
I'm gonna
John.
send
Go
you
to the
back-
store.
I'm going to send you
That's
back to
true.
scripture where Jesus said, if you judge, you'll be judged. Listen, this is books here. We've been highlighting 2 different books written by Ryan Pitterson.
Ryan.
The first one is called The Judgment of the Nephilim, and the second book is called The Final Nephilim.
Great books.
I know a lot of very nice Nephilim.
He says Klaus does. Klaus may be.
I've been working with them for years.
Yes. And
I bet.
listen, I encourage you to get these books by author Ryan Pitterson. We are simply just touching this amazing revelation. And we'll take you up to some points, but we won't give certain things away to where you'd really should get the
You
books.
should get them and read them.
He's what you would I
There's
would
so
call
much detail in the book.
he's what I would call a professional Bible researcher with an emphasis on Hebrew thought and theology.
Interesting.
He's the author of these 2 books, received a bachelor degree from University of Rochester, his JD degree from Columbia University of Law. These are Amazon #1 bestsellers.
Good for him.
Actually, in the second book,
That's pretty cool.
the final Nephilim rolls out the connection with the Antichrist. And so remember this series we did 3 weeks on the AI Antichrist connection. I feel like I have to review a little bit in case someone is just tuning in. This is part 2 of the Nephilim after the flood.
Do the abridged review, not the 17-minute review.
Okay, we'll see how long this lasts. 9 minutes. Okay, if the human race was cleared out
Yep.
after the flood, everyone on earth gone, outside of Noah, his 3 sons, their wives, and Noah's wife. And God did that because there were no full-blooded humans at that time left on the earth. Why is that? The Nephilim are fallen angels. That's what these books are about. It details all this in Genesis 6. If you want to see the scriptures, you can go back to last week. We had all those scriptures. The fallen angels are labeled the sons of God in Genesis 6. If you truly study that out, they are fallen angels. They had sexual relations with human women, and the offspring of the Nephilim and the human women were half demon, half human. Blood had populated the earth very quickly. You could say that God cleared the earth of everyone by using the flood that was half human, half fallen angel in order to save the plan of salvation. Jesus could have never been born if God didn't do that, to save the bloodline of Jesus. And that's where you get the giants in the Bible. Yeah. Again, go to Genesis 6. I think we will look at that scripture at the very end. But I really do believe all these Greek gods, half gods, passed down through the legends.
The demigods.
Even after that, the Viking gods, Thor, Loki, Freya, they're all Nephilim, okay?
Yeah.
And what the devil is doing by having these fallen angels, demons, having children with human women, he was trying to prevent the birth of Jesus Christ.
Right.
Genesis 6:9 says Noah was perfect in his generations. Study that out in depth, okay? It doesn't mean he acted perfect.
No.
Because it says right away, he had to have the grace of God. That's favor you don't deserve. In the Hebrew language, perfect in his generations means his DNA was pure human. And they were the last on the earth. And so often we get these questions. Why? Why then, if the earth was cleared of giants after the flood, where did Goliath come from? How come David had to deal with Goliath, and even after that, Goliath's brothers?
Right.
That you had David's mighty men.
Was it 5 brothers?
I think so. Killing one after another. His mighty men killed him. And if the flood supposedly cleared the earth of all tainted human blood, and you're going to see in Ryan Pitterson's books, Judgment of the Nephilim, why exactly God had Joshua and his army exterminate whole civilizations, every man, woman, and child, and animals, which means, in essence, the animals. If they were having to kill the animals had this blood also. And so Ryan Pitterson proves, in my opinion, in the Judgment of the Nephilim, that the DNA of the Nephilim that God was trying to clear off the earth made it through the flood on Noah's Ark. Okay? And as we talked about this last week, the post-flood giants, even before Joshua, you can find people called the Amims, Genesis 14, during the time of Abraham. You can find the Anakims.
The Anakims,
in Joshua 14. Anakims actually held the historical location of Hebron, which we will tour on the Final Hour podcast. We spend probably 5-6 hours there. We spend most of a day there because it takes a long time to get to. We will leave, I believe, the Dead Sea early. You won't get as much time at the Dead Sea because we have to get to Hebron that day. And so, and you have to have a bulletproof bus, by the way, when you're going to Hebron. So we're looking at the giants after the flood because that's a question we always get. How did they show up again after the flood? In the land of Canaan, when Joshua was fighting these wars against the Anakims, the Zanzamims, the Emims, you look at these 3 people groups, and there's more than that. There's just more than just 3. The author of this book, these 2 books, traces the lineage of these 3 people groups back to Canaan himself. Canaan was Noah's grandson. Well, how did that happen? And as we said last week, the 7 nations that Joshua went after in the book of Joshua, they all came from Canaan, the grandson of Noah. Joshua exclusively was fighting Nephilim, all right, and trying to take the promised land. And the Nephilim, Ryan Pitterson says, DNA passed through the wife of Noah's son Ham on the ark. The Nephilim, says author-writer Ryan Pitterson, their DNA passed through the wife of Noah's son Ham on the ark. All right, and he's looking at these genealogies, and I'm not going to go into detail about when Noah had his 3 boys, why he had them at 500 years old.
Right.
The flood came at 600 years old. Noah's 3 sons, by that time, with the earth populated with mostly tainted Nephilim blood, would have had trouble finding wives without tainted blood. And we talked about what kind of person Ham was. He was a bad guy We talked about why Noah cursed Canaan, all right, Ham's son, and not Ham, all right? If Ham was the one that was so offensive. And so if you didn't see last week, you're just going to have to go back and see it.
Yeah.
Just trying to fill in some blanks if you've never tuned in. And here's kind of where we left off, Genesis 4:22. 6-minute review, right?
It was pretty good.
Okay.
It was good.
Zillah, this is the wife of Ham. She also bare Tubal-Cain, or the wife of Lamech, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah, Naamah, right? This is the wife of Lamech. Just making sure you understand what I'm talking about here. The 7th generation from Adam, a guy named Lamech, who was a descendant of Cain, the one that killed his son Abel, or his brother Abel. You have, weirdly enough, in Genesis 4:19 through 24, you have 6 verses out of nowhere. This doesn't happen. Describing Lamech's genealogy suddenly in detail.
Right.
Like details you don't get
For a lot of other people.
with other genealogies.
Right.
And this author, Ryan Pitterson, is saying Lamech's family was the first family to initiate their marriages with the fallen angels. He wasn't a good guy. You can see him mocking God in Genesis 4:24, but there was a transaction between Lamech and the Nephilim of forbidden knowledge for a woman's hand in marriage out of Lamech's family. Lamech's children were given 3 forms of revolutionary technology. Guess I'm still reviewing.
Oh.
It's good stuff.
It's good. We barely touched on
But
it
look,
last.
you're in Genesis 4. Like,
So this is
the Bible started Genesis 1. That's not very long before.
Well, it's only 7 generations.
That's crazy how
Yeah.
much stuff happens.
Lamech's children were given 3 forms of revolutionary technology to give up one of his daughters to become a wife of the Nephilim.
Poor girl.
Jabal came up with the invention of tents. Before that, man couldn't travel around and live. They lived in fixed structures or caves. Or maybe they built, they figure out by then how to build themselves like a little cabin or something, right?
Yeah.
But this was revolutionary technology. And Jabal was also given great insight into the breeding of animals that had never been known. The Bible says he is the father of these things. He is the inventor. Lamech's other child, Jubal, is the father of musical instruments. And Tubal-Cain, who we just read about, the father of, in essence, making weapons out of bronze and iron. And so all these things were revolutionary. But here we go. Once again, Genesis 4:22, the sister of Tubal-Cain, one of Lamech's 3 sons, was Naamah. And she was the first wife of a fallen angel and the first human mother of a Nephilim giant with mixed blood. Remember, in this review, I left out a lot of details from last week, but it's good for you to hear it a second time. According to the book of Enoch, which is not in the Bible.
It's what they call the Apocrypha.
Yes, it did not make it into the Bible. But let me tell you something. 90%, a lot of the Apocrypha is sketchy. All right, but the book of Enoch is widely believed that by most commentators that Enoch actually wrote this. According to Enoch, 200 fallen angels went to Mount Hermon. The word Hermon in the Hebrew means oath. So when they went to Mount Hermon, 200 angels took an oath to populate the earth by having sexual relations with human women. This is Enoch himself. This is Enoch that God loved so much he just snatched him.
Right.
I wish I could get to that point.
You want to get snatched by
I want
God?
to get snatched.
It's wild. I mean, to think about it,
It is crazy. What'd he do that was so great?
well, I mean, it's
Walked
interesting.
with God.
Well, and this is one of those.
Enoch walked with God.
It's interesting because Enoch was what, the grandson or the great grandson of Cain, the guy who got banished, from or to roam the earth or whatever. So it's interesting that it doesn't matter what your family is.
That's true.
Your relationship with God is your relationship with God. It's not about what your family has done. You get to be in charge of your relationship and your destiny.
Good point.
Yeah. I just think that's interesting that Enoch is one of the few guys that never died.
Could be coming back in Revelation
Could
as
be.
one of the two witnesses because he did never die. That's disputed between Moses, Enoch, and Elijah. Which one is it? Which
But
two out
didn't
of the
Moses die?
three? A lot of people. I believe it's Moses, and you have to refer to the Revelation Revealed series. But I think it's very clear that it's Moses. And
But then what
Moses
about
and Elijah, because Elijah died.
what about
Yes.
Enoch?
Right? No, Elijah.
Enoch is just so
Elijah
great. God
got-
doesn't want him to come back.
I think Elisha got
Just gonna keep him.
sawed in half, didn't he? Then his head gets sawed in half.
Was he the one in the tree?
Elijah
Elijah and
Was the one taken
Elisha.
out.
Yeah, that's right.
Who's the one who went in the tree and then they?
sawed the tree in half.
Yes,
I don't know.
the Bible is a crazy book.
But think about this now. When the children of Israel finally entered the promised land, it was at the foot of Mount Hermon, where these 200 angels made their pact. This is with Joshua and all the giants. Okay, so you
Yeah.
know, even though that probably after Goliath and his brothers in the promised land, all the giants, Nephilim, had been wiped out in that particular place in the world. But I wouldn't say it happened worldwide, all right, that they were wiped out. And so we're going to try to stay on track with the Bible
Yeah.
here. But I'll tell you, there's a big scandal with the Smithsonian.
Oh yeah.
Hiding giant bones.
Yep.
And I'm trying to fix my little habit of looking at Jerry because I viewed last week's podcast and I'm just like, what am I looking at? And it looks like on camera that I'm looking up here.
Well, yeah.
And so when I'm looking, I'm actually just looking a foot to the left of the camera
Can I?
when it looks like I'm not looking into the camera.
Can you
say
correct
something
us,
to
John?
that?
Are you
No,
a 9-wing one?
No.
Oh.
I was just gonna say it's interesting because our sign looks like it kind of tilted
Yeah, it does.
on the podcast. It's perfectly level. It's just it's how lenses work. It pulls stuff into the middle, and that's it's the distortion of a lens.
The Smithsonian has been hiding giant bones for years.
Is wild, yes.
A lot of the frontiersmen found these bones, wrote about these bones, and you know, you're not allowed to dig into these mounds anymore.
Right.
John was talking about in Ohio.
Yep.
Because they're saying it's a Indian burial ground.
Right.
They don't want you to know about the remnants of the giants that have been found.
Abraham Lincoln was talking about the giants there's writing of Abraham Lincoln that talks about the giants that were found in the frontier.
Yes. And you know, because if I tell you what, if they admit to finding giant fossils, then it just validates the Bible even more.
Yeah.
And I mean, even looking back in the book of Joshua, you can see that some of the giants fled from the Israelites, and the Israelites never pursued. So giants got away. Listen, giant bones have actually been dug up on Catalina Island. All right.
Really?
So, I mean, Indians will tell you all about the giants. Indian legend. They'll tell you all about them. They were here long before any white man. All right?
Yep.
Chuck Misler does say, which I've said before, that's why the Indians said how, and they would raise their hand because they wanted to see if
they
you
wanted
had
to see
6 or 5
5 fingers.
In the
If you had
Bible,
6.
all of those Nephilim had 6 fingers on their hands and their toes.
So if you are wondering about somebody, just
How?
That was to make sure that you were not part of the
Nephilims.
the star people.
Looking
the star people. I'm gonna
Think
look
about
at
it. Okay.
looking at the biblical name
Oh,
of the angel that led the Genesis 6 rebellion. Okay?
mm-hmm.
He's called the Assyrian. Right? This is not the Antichrist. The book of Enoch calls this angel Azazel. Azazel. The book of Enoch. I'm not saying to treat the book of Enoch like the word of God. But what I am saying is you can get some history out of the book of Enoch. In Ezekiel chapter 31, there's a reference to the Assyrian. It's talking about a king with a mighty kingdom. God compares him to a tree. In this chapter, anytime you see tree, it's an idiom for the fallen angels. Remember, this is a lot like the dream Nebuchadnezzar had of a tree. And Daniel says, "You're the tree, Nebuchadnezzar." So it's not like this is brand new idiom that the Bible is using. It does this all the time. People are compared to, we are like trees that are planted by the rivers of water. Mm-hmm. And so the tree in Ezekiel 31 is the Assyrian, who Ryan Pitterson calls the fallen angel Azazel. And Enoch talks about Azazel in his book. Now, what it says in Ezekiel 31 is he's in the Garden of Eden, and all the angels envied him. That's what it said in Ezekiel 31. It says trees being an actual idiom for the Assyrian and the other fallen angels. It's very clearly described as Ezekiel as a tree in Ezekiel 31. And Ezekiel 31 Amplified says he was made beautiful with a multitude of its branches. So all the trees of Eden, that's the other fallen angels that were in the Garden of Eden envied him. Okay. Then it talks about this fallen angel, his offspring, and having all the nations under his shadow. Well, how do you do that? It says that this being, the Assyrian, when God judged him, he was judged with the floodwaters. And interpreting for you Ryan Pitterson's interpretation of Ezekiel 31, it says when God judged him, he dragged him down to the nether parts of the earth with the receding floodwaters. It took 150 days. Key. Jude 6 and 7. The angels who did not keep, care for, guard, and hold to their own first place of power, but abandoned their proper dwelling place, these he has reserved in custody in eternal chains, under the thick gloom of utter darkness until the judgment and doom of the great day. The wicked are sentenced to suffer, these fallen angels, just as Sodom and Gomorrah and the adjacent towns, which likewise gave themselves over to impurity, indulged in unnatural vice and sensual perversity. In this case, these angels, they had sexual relations with human women and laid out in plain sight as an exhibit of perpetual punishment to warn of everlasting life. These are the angels that had sexual relations with human women that took an oath altogether to start it up at Mount Hermon. It says the book of Enoch, and Ezekiel 31 is the leader of these guys.
Crazy.
Azazel, and it backs it up in Ezekiel 31, what we just read in Jude 6 and 7. They were judged with the flood and sent to hell. But that's not all. It actually gives timing here. This is amazing revelation of the punishment of the fallen angels. It's not talking about trees in Ezekiel 31. They are an idiom for the fallen angels. What's interesting is the Bible, in essence, says Ezekiel 31, in the day that I sent you guys to hell for doing what you did, you started going the day the floodwaters were restrained. And if you go to Genesis 8, it took 150 days of the floodwaters to go down.
Right.
How does the 150 days of the restraining of the flood connect to the head of the fallen angels that Enoch says is Azazel, who Ryan Pitterson says, who the whole chapter of Ezekiel 31 is about? And what I mean about the head of the fallen angels, you've got Lucifer, but this guy led the angels that had sexual relationship with human women. So let's see how all this connects with Revelation chapter 9, the fifth trumpet judgment. Okay? You're about to see these guys coming back.
It's such an interesting topic of conversation because most Christians don't get this deep into, especially the Old Testament, but into maybe some things that aren't nice and fluffy about love and faith and grace and stuff. But this is, if you look at the Bible, it is wild. I mean, it is from everything that from Genesis through the prophets. Like, there are so many crazy things that is hard to believe, but this is like the foundation. You don't have Christianity, we don't have Christ without the Old Testament, right? The whole Old Testament proves time and again that Jesus is the proof of what God has done and what he has promised. So the reason this is important is because we're seeing all of this come to a head,
right
right in front of us. So it's important to see and to know and to understand that, this isn't sci-fi. This is
real stuff.
This is real.
And it's just going to get more real.
Yeah.
And listen, Revelation 9, 1 through 11, the fifth angel blew his trumpet, fifth trumpet judgment. I saw a star falling from the sky to the earth. And to the angel was given the key of the shaft of the abyss, the bottomless pit. He opened the long shaft of the abyss, the bottomless pit. Smoke like the smoke of a huge furnace puffed out of the long shaft, so that the sun and the atmosphere were darkened by the smoke from the long shaft. This is in the middle of the tribulation. Probably, well, I don't know. Then out of the smoke, locusts came forth on the earth. Such power was granted them as the power the earth's scorpions have. They were told not to endure the herbage of the earth. Don't eat like regular locusts, nor any green thing, but only to attack human beings that did not have Jesus Christ. There are going to be human beings running around in tribulation that believe in Jesus. And so, but they were not permitted to kill them. They weren't allowed to attack people with the seal of God. Mm-hmm. But to torment, distress, vex them for 5 months. And the pain caused them was like the torture of a scorpion when it stings a person. And in those days, people, they're going to try to die because of these stings. Interesting. And they won't find it. A lot of people think because you get the mark of the beast, it keeps you from dying. And they will yearn to die, but death evades and flees from them.
It's just, okay, think about this. This is just me going out on a limb, but we keep talking about the joining of humans and AI. The chips in the brain to accelerate how much you can do, but that's all going to be part of a cloud system, a knowledge base that runs on the brains, the bodies, the minds of humans. If you start taking away the combined calculation that AI needs to be basically running on human computers, because that's connecting to minds, AI will want to stop anyone from dying because that will take away from its power in its horsepower to do calculations.
And
so it will do everything it can to release whatever things that they're going to have at this point to stop you from dying, because that's going to be taking away from that army, that resource of the beast and whatever AI ends up being.
If you're stuck in the tribulation and they say, "Hey, get this chip put in you," you're gonna live forever.
This tech, don't limit to a chip. Talk about it as tech, like joining tech really with your brain. Yeah,
I know this lady wrote, and I was trying to find it. She works with computer technology, and she was saying, like, on a computer, when they back stuff up, it goes as an image.
Yep.
And so she's saying, like, the AI, like, retains the image of everything that was downloaded. Yeah.
Well, that's another point I'd like to make, is I just saw on a ticker this morning, I think on a BBC ticker, that France is doing security with AI at the Women's World Cup.
Yeah.
So you got AI, now they're taking on security jobs. These locusts coming out of hell resembled horses. Equipped for battle. On their heads was something like gold crowns. They had faces of people. They had hair like the hair of women. Their teeth were like lions' teeth. They had breastplates. They had armor on, made of iron. A whirring noise made by their wings was like the roar of a vast number of horse-drawn chariots going full speed into battle.
It was a nightmare.
It would be a nightmare.
The image of a nightmare.
I want these things this big. Are they human size? What are they?
Have you ever done bugs? You ever done the what if? Or what would you rather? And the question is, would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or one duck-sized horse? Or one horse-sized duck, if you had to fight one?
Is that what you're asking us, John?
I'm just saying.
I think
I'd fight the horse-sized ducks.
I was going
Same.
to say, because then if you subdue it, then you can fly.
But I'm going to say
Jump on
all
the back.
those little, however big they are, doesn't matter if they're this big or huge, they're going to
they
be
are-
a menace.
Oh, yeah. When you see
They're probably little.
When
to
you
get
see a
into
flying
vents and
bug
stuff.
in front of your face, you ever seen one of the big moths?
Yes.
And it like fly, you're like,
But isn't it funny how you're
Yeah.
scared of, like, you're like
Right, you're
initial,
like,
like, some people are deathly
many-
afraid of these bugs and you wonder if it has to do
Well,
with that.
if bees, I do not sit still. If there's a bee, I'm trying to knock it out of the air and step on it, and I know that's not what you do, but I can't help myself. They have
BLTs.
tails like scorpions,
oh,
and they have
this
stings.
is a nightmare.
And their tails lies the ability to hurt men for 5 months, 150 days on the Jewish calendar. Over them as king, they have an angel. I wonder if it's still the same guy. In the Hebrew, his name is Abaddon, destruction, but in Greek, he is called Apollyon. And I wonder if this is Azazel, right? I
Right.
just wondered. So this is the 5th trumpet judgment in the tribulation. The bottomless pit open. These angels are
Is the
still...
bottomless pit from the ground?
Yes. These
But listen.
we got
Okay,
listen.
go ahead,
Linda.
Jim.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
on.
We're 35
No,
minutes.
this
I
is-
wasted
this is
time
better
with the
than
horse
mine.
and the duck thing.
Go, Jim.
Go ahead.
No, what were you going to say?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay, now you're really annoying.
It's
Finish.
the hole in the
Say what you're
ground.
gonna
What's
say.
the hole in the ground?
I just
What do you
think like
think
when you look at the ocean and there's volcanoes erupting in the
yeah.
ground, I feel like it has to do with all this. There's no reason why there should be like submarine volcanoes erupting with that's what they're called, magma into the ocean. I feel like it has to do with hell.
Hell is in the center
Well,
of the earth. I don't care what
mean-
any of them say. No one's ever been down there.
But if
They've
it's
never
going down
sent-
to a bottomless pit and he receded with the floodwaters, wouldn't that make sense that he would go when you empty
Yeah.
something and there's a drain, it
Well,
goes down.
there's gotta be somewhere that it's going, right?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. The
Oh,
bottom
that's
of
a
the
good
ocean.
point.
Yeah,
I just now got what you were trying to tell me.
I get it. I mean, there's
I'm sorry for interrupting, but
okay.
These
Carry
angels are in prison. These are the angels in Jude. Okay? But in the tribulation, they come out as these locusts and as red hybrid creatures, face of a man, hair of a woman, teeth of a lion. They're actually wearing breastplates for armor. These aren't helicopters. Okay? You have prophecy experts say, oh, you're helicopters. They're not helicopters. So they torment
makes
those.
so much
worse.
sense what they are now.
They torment
much
those
worse.
in the tribulation that don't have the seal of God, probably the mark. And we'll have 5 months on the Hebrew calendar. What's that? That's 150 days. Well, if it's the same demons, they were dragged to the abyss over 150 days.
Think how mad they're going to be.
And on their release, they have changed their appearance because they were beautiful in the Garden of Eden. Remember, the serpent was one of the most beautiful. He was the most beautiful animal in the garden, the serpent. All right? So what a coincidence that these things torment the unsaved during the tribulation 150 days. This is the kind of revelation that the author of these 2 books, Ryan Pitterson, has brought to life. And with that, we have to go to a revelation alert.
We could keep talking about that.
So many people.
Just play it out.
There's just some dorky things that we do, but John moving his head just
Many
with
people
every woe.
believe that demons are the spirits of the Nephilim giants, fallen angels. A demon is a fallen
That would
angel
make
that does
sense.
not have a body. And we know that. They want a home. They'll take your body if you offer it to them enough and don't have a lot of prayer backing you.
Yeah.
Think about this. Commentators estimate at the time of the flood there was 1 billion people on the planet.
Wow.
That's a minimum number of estimations. If every single person on the planet had the blood of fallen angels, I guess you could say that's a lot of demonic spirits running around.
That is.
But it's a limited number.
Yeah.
Remember, Satan only took 1/3, all right? Jesus did say that the angels in heavens do not marry and are not given in marriage. Also, many people think he's referring to us when we get there and we get caught up there, that we're not going to be married up there, which doesn't bother me one bit, ladies and gentlemen. But look, Jesus isn't covering the angels that fell, all right? The apostate angels
Yeah.
with Satan is very clear in Genesis 6. These angels had sexual relationships with the daughters of men. And as we read in Jude, they relegated to hell. They were relegated to hell for their actions that they took. And we believe Ezekiel 31 is describing the leader of these guys, according to the book of Enoch. Isn't it interesting, in Revelation, you've got these guys coming out, tormenting mankind. Mm-hmm. Coincidence, 150 days.
And how mad they are, too.
They'll be in such pain, they want to die. They try to die and can't. Death eludes them. What a coincidence. In Ezekiel 31, you read that it took 150 days. That the floodwaters receding and washing them down to hell, where they will be until they are released on the earth in the tribulation. Think about this. You had what many commentators believed, God the Father and Jesus and an angel, or Jesus and two angels came to visit Abraham. Remember? Yeah. Abraham was trying to intercede for Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah. They were in human form. Okay? The angels that destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, they came down. They looked so good. Jerry would have called them 11s, 12s.
Absolutely. At least.
They looked so good.
And their drip was off the chart.
I don't even know what that is. But look.
Their style, like how
drip?
They would, yeah.
Their drip.
Style is called drip?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, you'll be able to use that for about 3 more months.
That's true, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
I don't even know if drip's
it
cool
might
anymore.
It actually is probably out already.
Yeah.
I like BLT with cheese better. But they look so good that all the homosexual men in Sodom and Gomorrah wanted to rape these angels who were in man form. They look like really good-looking men. These are righteous angels.
I'm going to say
had physical bodies.
The angels really fast. You think you have them in a certain way, but AI was doing a thing on, I know AI, and I'm sorry, but they did AI generated angels from the Bible, and they are totally different than what you think they look like.
Yeah. And AI would know.
Well, they would know.
I think
You're
AI
right.
would know.
And I was like, okay.
Many other examples like that in the Bible. The book of Hebrews says, pay attention, Christians, you could be entertaining an angel. And
Newsboys had a song.
Yeah.
The New Testament even says that Satan can appear as a good angel. But look at this, 1 Corinthians 15, 37 through 40, and I'll explain it.
He's such a dirty guy.
That which thou sowest not that body that shall be, but bear grain, it may chance of wheat or some other grain. But God giveth it a body that has pleased him, and to every seed his own body. All flesh is not the same flesh, but there is one kind of flesh of men, another flesh of beasts, another of fishes, another of birds. There are celestial bodies, bodies of terrestrial, but the glory of the celestial one, the glory of the terrestrial is another. But what did it say? They all have seeds. They all have a seed.
Yeah.
So it does say terrestrial.
The Bible says that angels have seed, the ability to recreate. Is that what it's called? Everything that has a body has a seed.
Huh.
Right.
That's how a lot of commentators translate the meaning of what we just read. You decide for yourself. The book of Enoch, at least looking at it from a historical standpoint, not as the word of God, said that these fallen angels, the Nephilim, have supernatural knowledge. The book of Enoch said they taught man astrology.
Right.
In the ancient Hebrew culture, the flood judgment of the Nephilim was an incredible event. It was like an Armageddon.
Yeah.
There's a term for the giants in the Hebrew called Raphaim.
Yeah.
This became synonymous with the dead. Like they just started writing Raphaim in for dead. Okay? Because they all died. These are giants. Originally, Raphaim was the giants. We go post-flood, you talk about these giant tribes, the Zanzamimes, the Anakims, the Emims, and you know what it says? It says they were in the Hebrew, the Raphaim. So where am I going here on the Raphaim? Before the flood, all the giants were considered Raphaim. And the reason that word became, we're going to use that word for dead, because they all died in the flood. Suddenly, post-flood, you've got the giants broken out in different groups.
Yeah.
Author writer Ryan Pitterson believes that this came at the Tower of Babel dispersion. After the dispersion of mankind at Babel, every different culture had a name for the giants that wound up in different territories. I'll just close out today by saying the mythology of the ancient Greeks, the mythology of the Vikings who came later, these demigods, men of renown.
Yeah. Right.
As Genesis 6 points out. And notice it doesn't go into a lot of detail about the men of renown because everyone knew who they were. Everyone knew their exploits. And you can think this is a little far out, but you can see the Bible really starting to come together.
Yeah.
And Ryan Pitterson.
That's cool.
Answering serious questions that have been asked since I was a child, right?
Yeah.
Check these books out. Judgment of the Nephilim, The Final Nephilim by Ryan Pitterson, Amazon #1 bestsellers, Genesis 6:4. There were giants in the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, the fallen angels came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. And we've still got at least one more week on Nephilim after the flood. And so we'll pick up with that. And we got Lonaiah, who sat very quietly.
Very quietly, yeah.
Well, we saw why I said quietly. Come on, Lonaiah.
I had to make you say it.
Yeah, I try not to interrupt.
You can interrupt anytime you want, Lonaiah.
I did.
Okay.
Okay, this is an interesting story because we've been doing the Nephilim, so I kind of started listening to some podcasts on it, and I listened to one from this pastor from 2018, and he kind of shared a little bit, not in such detail, but he brought up something that I forgot about. But I'm sure some of you who follow this Nephilim thing and are kind of interested in it, maybe not, but you've heard about the Giant of Kandahar?
Yep.
Okay. So in case you haven't, the Giant of Kandahar was an enormous humanoid creature allegedly encountered and killed by a group of American army soldiers on a mountainside in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. Okay, Stephen Quayle, who we kind of looked into him a little bit the other day.
Is that coast to coast?
Yes. Okay,
Art
you know who he is?
Art Shell from Coast to Coast.
Check that. Check that. It's a podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Coast to coast.
So he says the events allegedly happened in 2002 in a desert part of Afghanistan when a U.S. Army squad went missing. A special ops task force known as the Rangers was sent to find the missing squad. So when they were sent out, what happened was the soldiers walked along a ragged mountainous trail until arriving at the entrance of a large cave. So pieces of broken U.S. military equipment and gear were scattered all over the clearing. The task force was about to enter the cave to explore its recesses when a 12 to 15-foot red-headed, 6-digit, double-toothed humanoid emerged and attacked the soldiers.
Yeah.
Okay? You can think this is conspiracy, but after everything I've been watching on the government and everything they hide lately, I'm sorry, I just don't think it is.
A bunch of blood drinkers. Go ahead.
So the giant impaled Dan with a giant spear and proceeded to attack the rest of the squad. So the witnesses state that it took 30 seconds of continuous fire to knock the giant down. So they said they used full automated M4 carbines. So this much firepower concentrated on one target for 1 second, let alone 30, would be extremely destructive. So according to the witness, the giant wore canvas or animal hides to cover itself and protect its feet like moccasins, and it smelled like dead animals. The creature's body was airlifted back to the squad's base by a helicopter and a net. From there, it was loaded onto an aircraft and taken away. And
Never to be seen again.
never to be seen again.
But finish it.
So from there, okay. So upon their return, the soldiers were made to sign a non-disclosure paperwork to stop the word from spreading of their encounter. The witnesses states that he broke his silence because people have to know what's happening on our planet.
Have a right to know
And
what's happening on the planet.
the pastor that I was listening to goes on to say that in 2018, Popular Mechanics or Science, is it Popular Mechanics?
Popular Mechanics.
There was an article written where the, what's it called? Pentagon.
Yeah.
The scientists of the Pentagon were saying, they're kind of talking about this case, but saying that the reason they need bodies or blood samples of things is because they're trying to create super soldiers.
Right.
So this pastor's saying, sorry, but they took this and they took his blood and his DNA back to the Pentagon to create super soldiers that are, which I know you're going to think this is crazy, but me and John have sent some things where there is, I don't know what it's called, underground at the Pentagon. It's like a...
Underground at the Pentagon, underground at the Denver airport.
Yeah, like...
There's a lot of facilities that are hidden by other facilities. You know,
that house...
Again, it's things that you might associate with science fiction, but there's a lot of things that we're dealing with in the news right now that are associated with science fiction.
Right.
Yeah.
And who knows what came out of that cave?
Well, and we also talked about...
that the guy was in a 15-foot giant.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
These are Army Rangers that ran into this.
And isn't it funny that the guy, he gives like great detail, like 12 to 15 feet, 6 digits. I mean, unless the guy knew exactly about that, how would you even know to describe those?
Well, and that's even bigger than Goliath was, or
Way
at least
bigger.
taller.
Yeah.
Goliath was only about 10 feet, like 9 to 10 feet.
Crazy.
Redhead. He was a redhead too.
Yeah.
It was the giant.
It was interesting because didn't we talk about a
funny
couple
when
weeks ago?
Yeah, because redheads have a redhead and they're like a little crazy, a little wiry, a little.
Listen,
Are they?
My friend Joe, he's...
Hey, Jim, you used to be redheaded back in the day.
I was. I was more strawberry blonde.
But weren't we talking about in Iraq that part of the things that Iraq is the home of Babylon, right?
Yeah.
But also there was the tomb of Gilgamesh, which was something that scientists were interesting to get from Iraq.
Who's Gilgamesh?
Because Gilgamesh was a giant. He was a man of renown. He's one of those people that they talk about as being, extraordinarily large and strong. I believe Gilgamesh is mentioned in the Bible. But
Oh, sorry. Didn't you say something the other day to us about the Grand Canyon?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's another part of the Smithsonian kind of
Cover up.
Call it a cover up. We're not here for any conspiracy theories, but there's information out there. The first 2 or 3 excursions that went into the Grand Canyon, the first guy brought back some information. He found a cave system that had, number one, they had Egyptian art on there, and they found thousands of artifacts of Egyptian. They looked Egyptian. They sent another guy. This is towards the end. This is after the Civil War and towards the end of the 1800s. They sent another guy in right after 1900 to take pictures and to investigate. And he brought back stuff. There was a giant tablet, and I think there was multiple tablets that basically had the recounting of Joseph. The biblical Joseph, who was the vizier or, the second in command to the Pharaoh at that time. Interesting. So there's connections that people are trying to uncover that, the white men that came in the end of the 1400s and into the 1500s were not the first people from other places to visit.
Right.
What do you want to bet? There's a bunch of evolutionists that have always been at the Smithsonian. What do you got next, Lonaiah?
Oh, I thought we could have ended there, but
Well, don't you have
yeah, I do.
Okay.
So an MIT developer. I think John tried to talk about this last week, but he created a device called the AlterEgo, and it is an earpiece that goes around his ear and into his mouth. And it allows you to surf the internet and perform tasks like ordering pizza while using your mind. Mm-hmm. So what the device does is it operates off of internally vocalized commands or questions, and it intercepts the signals before it gets to the vocal cords. Yeah. Is that crazy?
So it reads your mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's a lot of that stuff that the tech for amputees they're working with is.
I know.
Your mind has signals. It's trying to send electrical signal to parts of your body, even if that part of your body is gone. That tech can be.
Yeah, there's like a lab in Utah that's put in 30
programmed to
chips into people that have had problems that Yeah,
And
they're trying to do it. And Elon
so
Musk
now
hasn't
this is like the sharpening of that, and be able to take those impulses that your brain is firing and interpret it and put it into.
But can I say,
It's all gonna
sometimes
look
when you
really
think
good.
you think you want to order a pizza, right? And then you're like, oh, I shouldn't eat the pizza. So like you're going to order a pizza and then it's going to come and you didn't really want the
And
pizza.
the early versions.
Yeah.
The later versions
Yeah.
will be able to make that correction.
That's true.
I'm sure. I'm sure the Mark will be able to do all that.
I mean,
But-
it doesn't sound terrible to accidentally order pizza.
That's true.
Even when you're fighting
That's
with
true.
yourself. You
But-
know, like, oh, it showed up. I guess I should. Just
I guess I'll eat it. I've done that before. But Jim was reading in the Bible and it was saying celestial and terrestrial beings. So obviously this kind of goes hand in hand with that. So Elon Musk says his new venture, it's called XAI, could help us understand why we haven't met any aliens yet. So he said through Twitter that this new company would aim to create an artificial general intelligence, or AI, that can perform intellectual tasks and become more intelligent than humans, and would understand the true nature of the universe, solve mysteries regarding dark matter, dark energy, and gravity, and could help us understand why we haven't yet met aliens from other planets, because statistically speaking, there is other life forms out there and we should be able to communicate with them.
The Antichrist is going to reveal dark matter. That's an exact word out of Daniel, I believe.
Is it? Yes, you're right. It's called, and
Yes.
I guess Elon Musk is like really into this Fermi paradox. This is the first I've heard of it, but it's all about like technology communicating with dark, unknown things.
It's
Like
interesting.
the Bermuda Triangle,
Yeah.
He's gonna,
which happens to be in the ocean,
which
happens to be connected to the Nephilim in the bottom of.
the pyramids, the Bermuda Triangle, all this stuff. The Antichrist is going to answer these questions.
Yeah.
It says in Daniel. That's what commentators believe that those scriptures mean. Sorry to interrupt you, Lonaiah.
That's okay, Jim. I'm okay with interruptions.
Have you ever guys heard of the book Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Yeah.
Well, there's a whole AI that was created to answer a bunch of those questions. It's just funny that there's books that have preceded a lot of these different ideas that are coming out now, but those books were, written in the
But see how
last
they're
60,
having
80,
AI
100
answer
years.
all these questions
Right.
that people are having
Right.
out of nowhere?
The computer in Hitchhikers was
The Nephilim
deep
would know.
thought.
The Nephilim would know.
Yes. But that's why I just think there's a connection there. Okay.
Yes.
So
Well, I think this is interesting. I'm sure you guys have heard right now that Trump got indicted for January 6th things. So there's an FBI whistleblower that testified under oath that said the FBI won't allow these 11,000 hours of January 6th footage to be released because it would expose the undercover agents committing crimes inside the Capitol.
Right.
And I don't know about you, but I was talking to my dad about the January 6th charges coming for Trump, and these people are out for blood. The judge that is over this case, Trump tried to move it to a federal court because he's like, I was the president. This had to do with the whole country,
right.
not just one specific location.
Especially D.C.
Yes.
Which is
And the judge is a Clinton appointed judge, and he said he denied it and said, no, this is where it's going to take place. And just some conspiracies out there on this case is, how the Proud Boys got convicted of, I don't know their exact crime, but it's basically like trying to explain to people that there was a fraudulent thing taking place. That's what they're going to try to convict Trump with. So we'll see. I heard it's not good if he doesn't get moved out of the location where the trial's taking place right now. It's all a bunch of left crazies that want his head basically on a platter.
either way, it's not about a man.
No.
That's why we went through the 2 or 3 weeks on that Jehu guy. Check those out about the super soldier. Everything changed.
Yep.
Everything in a country. He literally bought a country 30 more years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't even a good guy. God just used him, right? Kind of like he used Cyrus the Great. Okay, so Cyrus the Great worshipped other gods, right? And God used Cyrus the Great to release the Jews, go back to Jerusalem. So quit focusing on what they're going to do to Donald Trump. All right. At this point, you have to lift this up to the Lord. You have to use your authority. You have to say, I command the principalities and powers, rulers of the darkness of this world, the spiritual wickedness in high places that are assigned to this nation, to this nation's government, that are assigned to these elections, that are assigned to, I always say, the Minnesota and United States Supreme Courts, Senates, House of Representatives, the United States military, the nation of Israel, and their military. I curse you. I bind you. If you do nothing else in the name of Jesus Christ, if these people are not going to get in the will of God, I ask you, Father, in the name of Jesus, get them out.
Right.
Get them out. There is still something you can do. And if the church just sits here and just does absolutely nothing,
for sure,
because they don't think there's a rapture, they don't think there's a tribulation, they don't think there's an antichrist.
We
Probably
need to
55%.
just need to be nice.
Be nice
If we're nice enough, that they'll just leave us alone.
And so they've been lulled into just sitting there and letting everything happen, right? And you're going to wind up all, owning nothing and being happy. Right. And I think we're going to be out of here by then. But keep going, Lonaiah.
Oh, okay. So really quick about that, though, which I think is interesting, the January 6th, they can literally find anybody who is in a square mile radius of that, but they can't find out whose cocaine was in the White House.
Of course.
3 different drugs in the White House. And my sister just went on a tour there, and she said in order to go in specific rooms, you had to give them your license. You had to give them personal information about yourself. So there is no way they don't know whose that is. Yeah. But I'm just saying.
Whatever.
I don't think anybody with a brain is concerned with understands exactly
BLT with cheeses. Go ahead.
True. Okay, so I don't know if you guys have heard about Whistleblower X. So Whistleblower X was a previously anonymous IRS agent who went public yesterday. This is yesterday, during a congressional hearing.
Hold on. You won't see this on CNN.
No.
Or Channel 11, Channel 5, Channel 4, CBS, NBC, ABC. They're not going to show
Not even
this.
Fox.
Probably not.
And they're going to
Fox
say,
point, so.
We're not covering it up, but they are suppressing it.
Oh, yeah.
But this is interesting.
Listen.
So this outlines how the Biden Justice Department interfered in the criminal probe of Hunter Biden. So the guy who was Whistleblower X, his name is Joseph Ziegler, is a 13-year award-winning member of the IRS who specialized in money laundering, bank fraud, and wire fraud. He isn't a Republican, you guys. He is a Democrat to the core.
Democrat.
And he said he didn't vote in the last election because they asked who he voted for. He's like, I didn't vote because I didn't really stand with either candidate, but I do identify as a Democrat. So he is a Democrat. So he joined his superior supervisor, Special Agent Gary Shapley. Have you heard of him before? Just vaguely?
Not specifically.
Okay, to testify at yesterday's public hearing.
Oh, yeah.
So they both alleged together that they confirmed that Biden and their companies raked in over $17 million from foreign business deals, including when Joe was vice president. This is a 13-year award-winning IRS agent, you guys.
Right.
Then he said the Biden-appointed Department of Justice repeatedly intervened in their investigation into Hunter Biden, preventing them from interviewing members of the Biden family.
So,
illegal.
But this was to who? Who was he testifying to?
The congressional, what did I say? The Congress. Before Congress.
All right, so we just agree in the name of Jesus, this is coming out, that this will not stop. They won't be able to stop this from rolling. This is going to continue to roll, and it's going to roll, and it's going to roll, because we know what these people are. We know what these people are, and so we pray that you put it out there, Lord. You put it out there in the name of Jesus. It spreads. It spreads, and things turn on them. Remember the boomerang prophecy?
Right.
There was a prophecy. I think we've read it right on the.
We have
right on this on the Final Hour podcast. But what else you got, Lonaiah?
Okay, this one is so top Biden border officials tied to far left immigration advocacy. So 3 of Biden. So you wonder why there's so many people coming in from the border is because these guys are radical, far left, pro-immigrant groups, and they support these groups, and they're allowing them to come in So 2 of them hold the most influential positions in the Department of Homeland Security, so the Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties and the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. The other one serves as the White House Immigration Advisor. And they're basically pushing for immigrants to be allowed here and for people to not be able to stop them from coming into their cities. They're just like all in on these people.
Well, and let's clarify.
And against immigrants' rights.
We are not against immigrants. We're against illegal immigration.
But did you guys see how much how much the immigrants cost the American taxpayers? It was like $150 billion.
The people that go through they aren't processed. They don't go through the process.
So they're saying
immigration.
It's costing the country. Obviously, people are being murdered by random immigrants because they're sending people from prisons over here, not questioning them, not asking them anything. Taxpayer dollars. The president's hiring decisions reaffirm the fact that this situation, to some extent, is by design.
Yeah.
So, it's on purpose.
Yeah. And that is, again, we had this country is built on
bacon cheeses,
immigrants,
of
immigration. That is, I mean, we're too young of a country to be reliant on just the people that were here in 1776. Immigration has built this country. It is the illegal immigration and the degradation of the sovereignty of the United States by people coming through borders. And it's not just the southern border. You can find stuff on any border to illegally come here, and it's being abused, and it's used for trafficking children and women. And that's what we get upset about. It's not just a victimless crime. It is encouraging cartels, and it's encouraging human trafficking to just put people through the border, because people can't afford to get to the border unless they're ferried by these cartels and these coyotes to get to the U.S. border and then shipped to sponsors across the border.
Oh, and if you read about the sponsors...
Let's what do you got? Let's close it out here.
Okay.
You were going on somewhere else?
No, the U.S.
You said you had one more
I
thing,
did.
right?
I was going to say that the White House advisor who I talked about is trying to get rid of the ICE group that goes against illegal immigrants. They're trying to say that we are racist because we have immigration laws and policies and we want driver's license, everyone to have driver's license. Apparently that's illegal and it's racist. But they're saying that we shouldn't focus on the criminality against or what these immigrants are doing. We should just welcome them with open arms. Yeah. But anyways, the U.S. is set to announce a further $1.3 billion in military aid to Ukraine. Again, the weapons, because I don't know if you guys heard Joe Biden did a conference last week where he said that we're giving things to the Ukraine out of our already depleted war chest or something.
Yeah.
And everybody got mad. So don't worry, you guys. They're not going to take it from us. They're going to buy them from other places to support Ukraine.
Did you watch? You sent me the interview or the conversation between President Biden and the
the president of Israel,
the prime minister of Israel.
That's embarrassing.
He was just sitting
like asleep, and the prime minister is trying to look engaged and be like, look normal.
Yeah. And
there's just something going on.
He had his chest in his chin in his chest.
Yeah, he did.
This is who you voted for.
It was
America.
insane.
One more thing, and I'm sorry that this feels like an attack on the Bidens, but do you know who has given all of the funds they can to the Democrat Biden 2024 campaign? George Soros and his son. And if you don't think that is pure evil, why don't you do a deep dive into George Soros and his son? They say his son is worse than him.
Yeah, a couple lettuce cheeses. Anyways.
I'm so sorry that I introduced Jim to BLT with cheese.
I'm just saying lettuce cheese. Okay.
Lettuce cheese.
Listen.
Yeah, lettuce.
Sometimes I don't even want to hear that.
I know.
But whatever.
We're informing to
pray for your country. Pray for your president.
I've spent a lot of time praying. After
you were chosen for this time.
Yes,
you were here. You could have been back. You could have been back around.
Well, if you were born in the time of Noah, you would have been dead. You would have drowned. And I heard drowning's one of the worst ways
so aren't
to
you
die.
glad to be here then?
Oh man.
You could have been born before the flood.
Then you would have died in the flood.
Yeah. Well, I'd have gotten on the ark.
Jim, then your name would be in there
Ham,
already.
Shem, Jim, and
I
Japheth.
would have been over there talking to Noah. Hey, what you doing?
What
what's-
you building,
what you building
big
here,
guy?
huh?
Oh, can I?
Sweet.
You want some help?
Do you want me to be an animal corraller?
Yeah.
Why don't you bring this by?
Just let me stay on the top. You know.
bring this by the cabin this weekend. We'll try it out.
Right.
Think when those doors close and those people.
God shut the door of the ark.
No, I know that, but I'm saying like,
I know, but some people might not know.
yeah,
that.
God did shut the door of the ark.
Right. But listen, thank you. Our subscribers. You know, I think just a month ago we've got 106 more subscribers than we had a month ago. So thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you for tuning in. We're just going to stay on this Nephilim. These incredible
very
books
interesting.
by Ryan Pitterson, the final Nephilim, the judgment of the Nephilim. And we're not. Trust me, there's a lot in here
Yes,
that
so
we're not
much.
talking about. We're just touching this stuff. And this is a Bible researcher here that wrote these books. Obviously believes like we do. And
Yep.
so thank you so much for tuning in to the Final Hour podcast. And, you know, just stay tough with all those lettuce and cheeses out
Hang
there.
tough, man. Hang tough.
Pray for the lettuce and cheeses.
Yes. And the bacon, too.
And the tomatoes and cheeses.
I love me some bacon.
Dude, I don't like bacon.
What?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I love bacon.
There's a
I just don't like
fracture in the Final Hour podcast team now.
I just don't like it. Do some research on
Why?
pigs.
Yeah. They're delicious.
People have eaten pigs for thousands of years.
Do you know what they feed pigs, Jim?
Yeah.
The sludge from like leftover lunches.
Isn't that an
think so?
amazing
Yes, it's a fact.
biological
Everyone feeds their pigs
machine that
Everybody.
takes all of that and just
Everybody
turns
on
it
this
into
earth.
deliciousness?
No, there's nothing delicious about
That's
anything
false.
pork related. There's a reason it was banned from the Jewish people.
Yeah. And then Jesus said, don't worry about it, Peter.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm with a pre-Peter.
You ever had lobster with butter on it? They couldn't eat lobster either.
Yeah. No shrimp.
Well, I
You ever had
have
lobster?
allergic reactions to that stuff, so I stay away too.
Well,
Shrimp.
Okay. Listen,
make sure
If you're
you
still
go to
tuned
temple and offer your sacrifices. That's all I'm saying.
if you're still tuned in,
in.
we'll get better next week. Okay.
Every week is an improvement.
God bless you guys.
Love you.
That's the Taylor Swift heart.
Jeremiah, give us
that's
a sound.
my heart.
Give us a sound and we'll close it out. Just any sound.
That seems appropriate.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys. See you next week.
See you next week.